listening to CaveRadioBroadcasting.com. The words and opinions you are about to hear are of the hosts and do not reflect the management of CaveRadioBroadcasting.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole. Today is Thursday, January 12th, year of our Lord 2017. And you're listening to a Gen Pop Mania production. We gave Dave the day off, so Hooper is no in casa. He is working diligently on one of the projects we've been talking about. And so he's just going to listen on the couch while he researches and puts the finishing touches on his book.
And then he calls in.
And he called in. Did he call in?
No, he hasn't.
He may call in. You never know. So it's me and Dave and Kenny today. How you guys doing?
All right.
I'm got a mix of Dayquil and Red Bull going on, and a little bit of a cold, so if I sound kind of...
What do they call that?
That's called Red Quill.
Red Quill?
Yeah,
like
or
it.
Daybull.
Daybull.
Yeah,
like
or
it.
Bull Day. I don't know. It's weird, but...
Bull Day, that sounds like a province in the Philippines.
It probably is. But yeah, everything's cool. Kids are sick as usual, and it's cold out. And
yeah, it's that time of year, isn't it?
you know, gotta love it.
Yeah. So we're another week closer to the inauguration.
Yeah, we're getting close.
Yeah, isn't it? It's the 20th, right?
It's the 20th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got one more pre-inauguration show.
Yeah, you know, and it's we're going over some stuff last week, right? About the whole King Cyrus parallel, and the number 70 keeps popping up,
Right.
and the number 7 keeps popping up,
Right.
and it's actually more prevalent than I thought. Once I started looking into it more, it actually turns out that now make of this what you will. I mean, it might not mean anything. It could all of it could be coincidence.
Absolutely. If coincidence was real.
If that's right, which it's not. But apparently, on Inauguration Day, this kind of seals up what we were talking about last week.
Okay.
Is that Donald Trump will be 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old on Inauguration.
Shut the front door.
Yeah. I'm sure that's total coincidence.
Absolutely. Well, it has to be, right?
And I'm sure that, the use of the number 70 in the Bible over and over and multiples of 7
means nothing.
It's probably
It means
it's probably just coincidence.
Yeah, it must be.
Because there's nothing historical about it anyway.
Right. Right.
But so I started kind of just digging around a little bit just this afternoon. It was just kind of popped in, like, what is going on with this 70? So it pops up, and I got just a couple examples I found. There's probably more. I didn't have my concordance at work. I just kind of was, But I won't start with the Genesis one because that actually goes back to something that's coming up in 3 days.
Okay.
Which is interesting. But yeah, it pops up in Exodus, Numbers, Jeremiah again, Book of Daniel, which is famous for Daniel's 70 weeks.
Yeah.
Abram's, which is Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham's father was 70 when he had Abraham. Jesus Christ himself delivered 70 parables in the Bible. I'm sure this is all coincidence.
It must be.
I mean, I'm sure it doesn't mean anything. But it's just kind of... and maybe it's one of those things that if you... What's that movie where the guy goes, 21 or 23? What's that movie? Was it...
you got to tell me more.
Was that Jim... Is it Jim Carrey? Who's in that movie? 21? Kenny, help me. What's that movie?
Which one?
It's like 21 or 23 where the guy sees the number everywhere and he goes insane. He's
23.
Writing. 23.
With Jim Carrey.
Okay,
So anyway,
Jim Carrey?
The point is that, it could just be that I'm noticing it, but in 3 days, there is a French-sponsored UN gathering to talk about Israel.
Oh, yeah. What's on the agenda?
And it just so happens there's 70 countries are going to be participating in this. I'm sure that is a coincidence. And I think it revolves...
Well, if it goes against Israel, we'll realize that...
Well, this was a really good idea in Genesis, all these people getting together to do one common thing. And then, interestingly enough, God broke all that up into 70 nations. I'm sure that's also a coincidence.
Yes. The Bible's riddled with coincidences.
Confusing their language, etc. Emerging out of the Tower of Babel. So, but yeah, all this is coming to pass soon. So, literally 5 days before the inauguration, they're going to have this UN summit. And there's this resolution. I read it. It's only like 2 pages.
So I'm assuming it'll be the Obama administration that attends.
I'm sure, because that's who's still, I don't know, in power, I guess you could say.
I guess.
But this UN resolution 2334, I'm sure people have heard of it. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert on Palestinian-Israeli issues, all right? And all I'm pointing out here...
I have very, very basic knowledge.
Exactly. And I don't... I mean, I can't really say I don't cheerlead for one side or the other, per se, but these are some interesting things to point out. I mean, there's in reports, too, that maps are already being modified to show that area of Israel that's in question, East Jerusalem, Gaza Strip, where... I mean, they literally say that, and this is the UN, say that even where the West Wall is being illegally occupied. And Palestine, from my understanding, wants Jerusalem to be their capital. So this is a pretty big deal, considering that Israel's the focus of all these coincidental things in this, book called the Bible.
Do you know enough about the meeting to know whether the meeting is being held by everybody to decide what's going on in Israel, or is it a meeting where Israel and Palestine are sitting down and everybody else is weighing in?
Well, Palestine isn't a nation.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay,
so,
yeah.
And I don't believe Israel is going to be at this either, but I do believe the subject matter is Israel. So,
yeah. Now that leads me to believe that...
Well, just get ready for the fireworks.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I'm going to look it up to see. I thought I'd heard what this thing was about, but I don't want to misquote it. January 15th. And I believe it's in Paris.
Yeah, the French love to host a party.
And I think it's about, this is 1996. Come on. Anyway. You haven't heard anything about this?
Yeah, I've been tied up. I'm either doing research or working like a dog.
Yeah, it's a planned peace conference. Now, this is from the Times of Israel. Security Council may push additional measure in days between Paris Peace Conference and end of... Oh, that is strange. Okay, I had it right in front of me, and then it kicked me right out. Interesting. End of Obama's term. Prime Minister tells cabinet. Yeah, Netanyahu expressed fear Sunday that the UN Security Council could take fresh action against Israel during a meeting on January 17th, 3 days before Barack Obama is slated to leave office.
Well, I would venture to say that if it was deliberately scheduled on the 17th, not saying that the rest of the world revolves around what goes on in America, but America is obviously a big player in the UN because who is the UN without the United States?
Right.
But I would say it could be bad news for Israel, which means bad news for the rest of us.
Yeah, because the latest UN resolution, and I don't know if you saw John Kerry's speech, essentially endorsing Palestinian position.
Yeah, absolutely.
Calling for the pre-1967 lines to serve as a reference point, yada, yada. So, I mean, I don't really have an opinion on the matter, personally. But there is it is some interesting happenings that,
Well, I read some. I've read a bit on the subject, and what I can say is I understand. I'm not saying I agree. There's a difference, but I understand the Palestinian position.
Of course, yeah, me too.
And I think that they actually, they have legitimate beef.
I know.
Because you have to, the big picture is the Palestinians didn't kick the Jews out of Israel. Okay, they were just the poor saps that happened to be inhabiting that place when we decided to make Israel a nation. When the Allies decide, these people are displaced and they move and okay, so they get done with that, they're unhappy, and then all of a sudden, within 20 years, Israel's like, yeah, we want that too. I understand where Israel's coming from, and I'm not saying I take one side over the other. I would have to be a lot more knowledgeable on the subject to make that decision. But I understand what both sides feel, and I just can't understand why we can't sit down.
That's the $1 million question. Why can't we just sit down and figure it out? But I think, it's like... Because
I think Netanyahu's solid, man.
No, he's
a smart dude.
He's definitely
he's a good
solid.
guy.
And the only reason that I even look into this, not to minimize any of the suffering that's going on, because I know there's a lot of nasty stuff going on.
Oh, yeah, there is.
On both sides. But
Yep.
The focus on Israel based on the things that we research and look into, Israel comes up an awful lot. And the whole idea that once they get their land back, no one will ever take it from them. And this is all biblical.
Right.
That's what catches my attention, because now all this stuff is going on. There's all these, call it signs, right? Right down to the what we talked about last week. It's just I'm just sitting back and I'm watching to see what happens, because Russia's involved in this on some level. It's interesting. It
is, and there is. If you look at the history of our world, there is really nothing more destabilizing than a country that feels God is on its side. If obviously God is on Israel's side, that's what the Bible says. But when you look back at it, look at all the things that have been done. A large part of the problem that people have with Christianity is they look at things that people do in the name of God rather than looking at things that God demands are done. If you go run out and kill a bus full of kids in the name of God, you can't blame Christianity for that, because Christianity is in direct opposition to that.
Right.
And so people want to look at the things that were done by men in the name of God and fault God for them.
Well, sure, and mislabel what
the Inquisition and all these, and
the history on that, we could do a list of a list of shows on that. The history on that little subject right there is very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Didn't have a whole lot to do with Christianity.
No, it did not.
By the way,
no, but I did pick up some, and maybe we should do a show on this. So if Hooper's taking notes at home, I did find a very interesting parallel, and I think we touched on it last week or the week before, about the spread of Islam. I think that was last week, where you said it stopped it. The French stopped it.
Well, that was part of a backdrop of a prophecy from that Kim Clement guy.
Yeah, I actually found some information. Don't know that it's true. Again, we're just throwing out topics that we come across in our research of the bigger picture. So please, please, please do your own research. Don't take anything we say as, if we're telling you we emphatically know, well, then you can hold us accountable for it. But these are just things I come across. I'd like to research it farther and come to a consensus like we've done on many topics over the last year. But I came across some very interesting reading where they were drawing parallels between the spread of Islam and the Dark Ages.
Interesting.
Because and this is not really the show, this is not the show to do it. I need more research. But, the one of the first things that happened is they start burning all the books, burning all the Bibles, burning that stuff. And he brought this particular author brought up a ton of very, very interesting points on, and when all that's taken care of, that's why the ages became dark.
Interesting.
And
like I say,
timeline wise, it absolutely corresponds. Now, I'm not ready to blame anything on Islam. I'm just saying that someone brought that up, and in the hour I spent reading through the guy's website, I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. I'd like to know more about that.
Yeah, and that's why I bring up this pattern, right? This pattern with the numbers popping up, and this pattern with stuff surrounding Trump, because you have it's kind of a strange dynamic. You have people who it doesn't matter what that guy does, they love him. Mm-hmm. The pom poms are out.
Yeah,
they got their skirts on. They're give me a T, give me an R, all that. And then you have people that are, no matter what he does, wish he would drop dead.
Absolutely.
And then there's, I'm sure, people like me, and you're probably included in this, that are just kind of paying attention. Hmm? I don't really, cheerlead for them, but however...
Well, I get, I think we both at times, probably more me than you, because you're smarter than I am. I get labeled a cheerleader.
That's why I always lead with that disclaimer, is that I'm not
and I do
cheerleading.
Yeah, and I kind of lead with the same disclaimer, and people just completely ignore it.
Of course, because it's inconvenient. You can't. You have to be one or the other, right?
Right.
I mean, it's
right.
It's not that.
And that actually segues perfectly into something I wanted to talk about. But I just think that you can't excuse one side of something and then hold the other side accountable. I think these people are hypocrites. Yeah, you can't excuse the mistakes Obama's made by saying Bush was a bad president.
Because he was a bad president.
Oh, he was, absolutely.
There's no question.
So was Obama,
and so was Clinton,
and so was Clinton, and so was G-Dub.
Right.
And so was Carter, and so
and we'll see what happens with this guy.
Yeah, well, there's nothing. It's there's no point to argue. He's not even in office yet.
But there is an awful lot of things which is why it's catching my attention. And of course, I don't cheerlead for the guy, but I am glad that he won over Hillary. No question about this.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But if he I'll be the first one to criticize him if he does something stupid, which inevitably he might. If he gets a little too, some things I really like, some things I don't like.
If he occupies the presidency the way he ran the campaign, where there's going to be times we're mad at him, because I agree that he said things he shouldn't say. But I also am open-minded enough to realize he is not a politician. He's not a career politician. So can you imagine if you or I had the tools to fix the country and they put us in Trump's position? Can you imagine the kind of monsters we would be? Because I'm telling you, Donald Trump handled that better than 90% of the average Joe businessmen without major political background would handle it.
I don't really care what came out of his mouth. Personally, I don't care. What I care about is what ends up on paper.
Exactly. Well, I care about actions speak louder than words.
What's going to go on?
I don't really care what he says. I care about what he does.
Yeah. So we'll see. If he gets a little too loose on his policies and starts spending money like a nut, like every other president since Reagan has done, then I'll be critical. If he does things that are great and we'll just throw the dirty word out there, conservative, how dare I? I'll support the guy. But I wasn't crazy about him when he ran. He wasn't my first pick. He wasn't even my second pick.
He wasn't my second pick.
Not even
either.
My third pick. But he ended up being
who was your third pick?
I don't think I had a third pick.
Okay. Wow.
Actually, my third pick probably would have been Cruz behind. Rand Paul was my number one pick. I really think he should have been president.
I like Rand Paul.
Rand Paul's solid, dude. And if he's not, he should at least play some part in this administration, I think. But
yeah, that would be awesome, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't know. It might, but probably not.
I'd really like to see Sessions run. I'd like to see Jeff Sessions run, but he's ruffled a lot of feathers, and again, they can't come up with any dirt on him.
Well, I will urge people that anyone, all of our 12, maybe that's ambitious listeners. If you haven't heard any of that Jeff Sessions hearing or anything coming out,
go listen to any of it.
You know what? That guy right there is. I've heard it said. I've said it. He's easily the smartest kid in the room. You almost couldn't find a better pick for that.
Yeah.
That position. That pick I love.
Yeah,
and they're trying to nail him with all this racist nonsense. With this election fraud.
Well, that's what
crap.
they have. That's what they have. That's the tool in their box. They're going to scream racist about every white guy that Donald Trump puts in the thing. I mean, they scream racist about all of us.
Well, he prosecuted. It was that case back from the 80s. I know a little bit about it. I can't say I'm an authority. I just read a little bit about it. But it was an election fraud case that he reluctantly prosecuted because he was dragged into it by the people. They wanted federal help, and he was like, look, it should be handled locally. They dragged him into it. He reluctantly prosecuted the case. But the people that he prosecuted, in fact, everyone involved, both parties, it was all African American, black. I don't know the real term to use anymore, but they weren't white people. So he prosecuted, and they had this guy. I'm sorry, but what I read, the facts of it, they had this guy red-handed. I mean, they were stealing elections down there, and this is a small area of small. It was in Alabama. I forget the county or the town. It's not important. You can look it up and look into it because it's important. This is what they're trying to use against him, that he targeted African Americans in his prosecution. But they were the ones that were being accused of a crime. So
that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter.
So this is the ridiculousness of this idea.
He should have refused to prosecute them just because they were black.
Or maybe you can only prosecute people if you're the same race as them. This is how ridiculous this is.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is the guy's name was Turner. The jury didn't end up convicting him, which is also very interesting. But they had this guy red-handed. I mean, they had a family of 6 whose votes on their ballots got changed. And what's interesting about that is they testified at this trial, and the person they originally voted for was their cousin. So they wouldn't have not voted for their cousin because it's family.
Right.
I mean, they had handwriting experts had this guy nailed to the wall, dude, and a jury didn't convict him. Even his son now, who's a county commissioner down there, said that not only does he support Jeff Sessions 100%, but all that stuff that went on down there was fraud, and this is the guy's son.
Yeah, well, I mean, that alone should shut people up, but it won't.
No, it won't.
They're looking for any shred that they can pound on the media 24/7 on every media news station to just make it be the thing that people think. I mean, it's amazing to me.
If the standard is that we can't prosecute anyone because they're not, this is essentially what the message is that I'm getting, is that you can't prosecute anyone unless they're white. Because if you do, it's unless you're the same race, right? This is how ridiculous this is. Not that a crime was committed, not that, it's just like the whole hate crime thing.
Anytime you bring people of 2 different ethnicities in there, but especially if a white dude's involved, race gets brought up. And it really has nothing to do in at least 70% of the circumstances, if not more. It really has nothing to do with it. You're just diverting attention away from the issue at hand.
Look, dude, if you're a prosecutor and evidence is handed to you and you can legally form a case, it doesn't matter what race anyone is at that point.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and say there haven't been, things.
There absolutely have been. And in Alabama, of course.
Of course. But all parties involved in this case were of African American race. So even the people that were charging them with, calling
the plaintiffs,
making complaints. So this is all they got on the guy. Even though,
and once again, they had to go back 30 years.
Well,
and so we have to we also have to be willing to concede that every one of us who is older than 35 years old has not changed one iota in 30 years.
Well, they ignore conveniently
reality.
Reality, of course, but this guy also was the one who prosecuted and had sentenced to death the Grand Dragon or whatever, the KKK.
Doesn't matter.
But Sessions
window dressing.
It was a civil rights champion, in my opinion. But of course, they'll drag him through the mud.
No, there was one black guy he prosecuted, so that's all out the window.
And this gets into muddy waters because people will be like, "Well, that's racist." Well, whatever. All I'm saying is that the guy, that guy is a measured individual, many years experience, very honorable man. And if you want to just hear a really intelligent person answer questions and things, listen to that. And another thing, because you go back, you mentioned the 30
but
whatever.
If you want someone to just blow sunshine up your ass and tell you everything's okay and we're better off than we were 8 years ago, 16 years ago, 20 years ago, then he's not the guy to look at.
Well, if you want to it'll take you about a half hour. I think it's 23 minutes long, actually. But I didn't listen to the whole thing because I don't really care about what he had to say. But the farewell address Obama gave, listen to that.
I just want to hear the end, the last 30 seconds where he says goodbye.
Well, yeah. Listen to that. Excuse me. And then, because a lot of people nowadays are including myself, I'm not old enough to have a memory of it. But just go on YouTube and listen to Ronald Reagan's farewell address and contrast the two. And you will see that really.
Yeah, as much as I am not a fan of Barack Obama, I just don't even think it's fair to compare him to Ronald Reagan.
Well,
it's just not fair to him.
It's just a matter of, and it's not comparing, it's comparing the content of the speeches. That's who we had then, and this is where we've gotten to now. So I don't know that we can. Well, I guess we could get a lot worse, but we'll see what Trump's got up his sleeves, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. And I'm becoming more and more convinced that this is that he literally has been appointed. I mean,
yeah, I'm not ready to. I think there are a lot of very interesting signs that point to the possibility of that, but I got to see him do some work before I'm willing to go out on that limb and go.
Of course.
And go, oh no, anointed by God.
I'm not saying. I'm saying I'm becoming convinced. More and more of the stuff that comes up that there's something going on here. There's just too many. There's too many patterns.
Yeah,
too many things to be coincidence.
Because I still contend, and I will contend, that the only reason that Trump won the election was because the Democratic fixers didn't think he had a snowball's chance in hell, so they didn't bother rigging the election. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I mean, you take it to the top. Either God put him there or he allowed him to go there. So, one way or the other.
Oh, maybe God just influenced.
He's in charge.
The Democratic fixers. No, you don't need to.
Yeah, he's in charge, 100%. But it is interesting when you start looking into, today, like I said today, the number 70, right? So I just kind of started looking around. Because, the Hebrew year, 5777,
right?
7 this, 70 that. 7, so I just kind of, I found this was pretty cool. It's from BibleStudy.org. And it's talking about the number 70 in the Bible.
Okay.
So I'll read it because it's not that long, and it is interesting. So 70 has a sacred meaning in the Bible that is made up of the factors of two perfect numbers. 7 representing perfection, because 7 is God's number, and 10 representing completeness and God's law, 10 commandments. As such, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. It symbolizes perfect spiritual order carried out with all power. It can also represent a period of judgment. So 70 elders were appointed by Moses in Numbers 11:16. After reading the covenant God gave him to read to the people, Moses took 70 elders along with Aaron and his sons up Mount Sinai to have a special meal with God himself. That's Exodus 24:9. Ancient Israel spent a total number of 70 years in captivity in Babylon, in book of Jeremiah, chapter 29. 70 is also specially connected with Jerusalem. The city kept 70 years of Sabbaths while Judah was in Babylonian captivity, Jeremiah chapter 25. 77s were determined upon Jerusalem for it to complete its transgressions, to make an end for sins and for everlasting righteousness to enter into it. That's from book of Daniel. Terah, the father of Abraham, had his first male child at 70. Canaan, the fourth biblical patriarch mentioned in Scripture, had his first son at the age of 70. Israel and Egypt had its beginnings with Joseph rising in power in Pharaoh's court and Jacob migrating his entire household into the land. A total of 70 Israelites started a nation within another nation that would grow to more than 2 million by the Exodus. 70 elders, not counting the high priest, composed Israel's great tribunal from Exodus and the book of Numbers, which was eventually called the Sanhedrin. It was this body of elders that hated Christ so much that they were the driving force in the New Testament to have Jesus killed by whatever means available. You know, by betrayal, lying, witnesses, false accusations, lying to the Romans that he broke Roman laws, etc. 70 disciples were sent out by Christ on a training mission to preach the gospel to the surrounding area in the book of Luke. The Bible records Jesus Christ giving at least 70 parables during his ministry. These parables, listed by the first gospel they are found in, are below, and it lists all of them from the book of Matthew. It goes on to the book of Mark, the book of Luke, the book of John. And the prophet Ezekiel was taken by God in vision to Jerusalem to be shown 70 elders of Israel defiling themselves by offering incense to their idols. This goes on and on.
Did you mention that the fall of Jerusalem was in 70 AD?
There you go. So, and again.
And you find it, because another significant thing to me is 40. 40 is a lot, 40 reigned for 40 days and 40 nights. 40 seems to be a period of judgment. You realize that 70 AD was pretty much 40 years after Christ was killed. Yeah.
Now, these numbers all mean something, right? We may never really quite grasp it, but we can at least grasp a pattern. And there may very well be something to all this. So I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
And I'm watching what's going on.
Yeah, I'm paying attention more than ever.
And I'm watching I didn't watch the whole, and I regret not doing it. I wanted to see the whole press conference that Trump had. I did, however, hear a section of it where, and this was, in my opinion, I've never seen anything quite like this, where there was a reporter, apparently from CNN, I think, literally shouting at Trump. I mean, I've never seen anything quite like it. The last time somebody tried doing that, that I remember, was with Obama. I think he gave a talk or a speech in the Rose Garden for some, I forget what he was talking about, but they had some reporter, he wasn't going to take any questions, and this guy kept badgering, and Obama just walked out. So this is, I don't think they'll ever stop. Doesn't matter what he does, what he says. The next 4 years are going to be a you-know-what storm, because they are just going to, no matter what, try to destroy this guy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what he says or do.
And there's no way this president gets away with the shit that Obama got away with.
Well, hold on, though.
That Clinton got away with, where they were largely ineffective in their first term and were like, well, we've got so many things in place. He'll never get a second term unless this guy, shakes the world in his first 4 years.
What scares me about it is you have the one camp that no matter what he does, they're not going to like, even if it's good. But you also have the other camp that no matter what he does, even if it's bad, they'll love it too. I mean, we literally could be led into a period of prosperity just as quickly as we could fascism.
Yeah.
It could happen that fast. And you will have people that will rally one way or the other, right? That's what's kind of scary to me is you'll have people out there that will, support anything he does, even if it's bad. And you'll have people out there that won't, even if it's good. So it's going to be an interesting party the next 4 years. Now, I had heard, did you hear, and I don't know that this is true. Somebody told me this. And again, I did not watch the press conference. But, and maybe you heard about this, is it true that he donated all of his foreign profits to the U.S. Treasury?
Who?
Trump. I don't know if that's fact.
I have no idea.
But I thought that somebody said that came out of he said something like this in his press conference. If that's a fact, because, they keep calling him out on conflict of interest and
right.
He's got foreign companies, this. If he actually took his foreign profits and then dumped it into the U.S. Treasury and said, there, now the people win, that's a big move. And it would be strategically genius.
Yeah.
But somebody will find a problem with that, right?
Absolutely.
He's just doing that because this is what we're going to have. So I just hope that we can get this crap out of the way and focus on what's important and try to get this place back up and running. Because right now we're on life support, dude.
Oh, yeah, it's real.
Is it?
Yeah, according to CNBC, Trump says he'll donate some profits to the Treasury, and so can you. Press conference Wednesday in New York. One of Trump's lawyers would give the profits his hotels generate from foreign governments to the Treasury.
Okay. Yeah. So there you go. That's
and that makes sense.
I believe that's
there could be no. Yeah.
I don't think. I don't know this, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find any world leader ever in history that ever did anything like that.
Yeah. Well, in other news, the Clinton Foundation said that they would not.
Well, of course they're not. Here's the deal, dude. When it comes to that stuff, and this is breaking it down real simple. All these people always talking, they want to raise taxes. They're talking about paying taxes. This is a patriotic thing to do, blah, blah, blah. I would only believe what these people say, because these are wealthy individuals. If they jettisoned all their wealth and dumped it into the Treasury to become a pauper, as an example,
right,
then I might believe what they are saying, that they actually mean what they say. But they don't do this, right? I mean, you can pay more in taxes if you want to. Go ahead. Write them a check. They'll cash it.
Right.
Guaranteed.
Oh, yeah. The Treasury will absolutely
They
take
won't
it. Yeah.
send it. IRS won't send it back and say, oh, you overpaid. No, go. If you're like, here's an extra $1 million. Throw it in. I want to donate to the cause. But they know that it's fruitless to do that, so they'll never do something like this. So you can't take it seriously.
Right.
Just as you can't take them seriously, they don't live under the same laws we do. So you can't, it's all nonsense. But that right there, him saying, okay, conflict of interest. No, there's no conflict. I'll give it right back to the. Now, I couldn't think of a bigger waste of money personally than dumping it in the U.S. Treasury.
I would donate it to charity or something.
But then there'd be an issue there, right? Because they'd say, oh, well, so it's helping out this buddy, this friend.
I would donate it to the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah. Now that would be
because of all their good work in Haiti. Yeah.
Now that would be enabling Satan.
But that would be
directly.
But it would be so funny.
Oh, it would be funny. But yeah, I can't think of a bigger waste of money. We'd be better off going to a really cold region where people are in poverty and burning that money for heat than putting in the U.S. Treasury. That's just my humble opinion. But
probably.
Yeah, I mean, come on, what are they going to do with it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Squander it. So,
So I'm trying to figure out. It's pretty much on the topic. We've touched on this before, and I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this because I'm concerned. I mean, we agree that the divide in this country is much, much wider than it's ever been. There are literally two sides.
Well, it's at least perceived to be that way.
I see it among my friends.
Yeah, but that's a result of propaganda.
Well, I understand. But
saying?
Whatever it is, it's real.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever caused it, it's real. Because I'm having a disagreement with someone I'm very close to, or I should say we had a disagreement on something, and I'm really kind of confused, and I asked a question, and it was taken the wrong way, and now there will probably be no healthy dialogue on it, but it's like, okay, I posed the question, we disagree on this, so I can give you a bunch of facts, or we're not going to call them facts. I can give you a bunch of reasons that I feel support my opinion on this topic. And then that person gives me nothing in return. All I'm asking is that, look, I respect you and your opinion matters to me. Can you explain to me why you feel that way? And they're so offended by the fact that I'm asking them to explain themselves that it's a total shutdown. And this is what I see. People can't explain why they do anything. It always ends up in, because
it's
fill in the blank.
It's always, things are so driven by emotion and feelings anymore that logic goes out the window. So you can make a logical case for anything, whether it's economics, whether it's policy, whatever it is. And anymore, it's, will that hurt somebody's feelings, whether it's factual or not. But if you're going to assert something, we do here. I mean, if I assert something and I say no, 100%, and I can argue it, cannot argue against this. It's not debatable. I'll claim that and I'll be able to back it up. But if I don't really know, I'll be like, look, I don't know.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to remain open minded because it seems to me, in the past, and look, we all know. Partisan lines, different it's all crap.
Oh, it's BS.
Okay, it's all BS. It's all the same thing. It's just how they dress the pig up. Okay? They're going to put the pig in a dress or they're going to put it in yoga pants. That's the difference. Okay? And
it's a weird visual.
Yeah. Well, which side's yoga pants and which side's is... Come on. We know which
pig
side...
in yoga pants. That's amazing.
Come on. We know which side the dress is and which side the yoga pants is. It's still a pig. Okay, it is. Right. It is what it is. And the end of this discussion, and like I said, I feel that I didn't do the best at making my argument, and so this person felt attacked when I wasn't attacking. I was literally asking an honest question. And the end of the argument that I was given was that when, parties aside, politics aside, when you take everything aside, the things they've done, the things they haven't done, the things they've been perceived to do, the things they have been perceived not to do, all you're left is with the character of the man. Okay, and this was being used this was being used to support the fact that Barack Obama's a good guy and Trump's a bad guy. This is the context in which that was being said. And my reply to that was, well, I agree with you. I'm applying the exact same standard. But what's troubling me is that we absolutely agree on Trump and could not agree less on Barack Obama.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say Trump's a bad guy.
It wasn't about saying they were saying a lot of what we were saying, that they're concerned about because of the things Trump has said. They're concerned that he's offended these people and blah, 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 blah. And, the same old thing and whatever. I'm not trying to belittle this person's concerns. But like I said, what they're talking about, it's the perception of Trump, and while they're giving you their perception of Trump, they're making their perception of Obama as if it's reality, and when you say the opposite, you're immediately wrong.
Well, here's the fact. I mean, there are, and I think, and again, most of it's a facade, right? Most of it is theater. But if it's not, I would tend to say that Obama's probably an okay guy. He's probably a good husband. He loves his kids. I could totally kick it with that guy, have a beer, play a round of golf. I would probably totally kick his ass.
I don't know. He's been on the course
on the golf course. Well,
years.
It doesn't seem to help his game any.
Oh, okay.
But that's me being a little cocky. Sorry. But the fact of the matter is there are people that agree with his policy positions. And they think that this social engineering type utopia stuff is actually really what they say it is on the surface, when really it's to lead to something, much more insidious.
Faulty equipment.
But they, if there are people that support Stalin, there are people that support the likes of Karl Marx.
I mean, this is not that type of person, and see, that's what. I don't know. I don't understand how we get past this, because
it's like
I can't remain silent any longer.
Here's the deal. I have my opinions, and I have facts to back up most of my opinions. Some of it is complete opinion, and that's fine.
So you have opinions to back up your opinions?
Sometimes I just have opinions, just like everybody else, right? But I don't see, there's this weird, and I really do believe this, it's probably what we consider like the left and the right, okay? Because that just makes it easier to talk about it without trying to get all into subcategories. But it seems to lean more, it's more the narrative on the left is that if you disagree, then you just can't even be in the same room.
Yeah. To
the point where they want to damage you. And that's not everybody, but there are radical elements like that where, for me, if we disagree on something, and as long as you're not, if you're a decent person, we get along. Like, it's okay if we disagree.
Yeah, right.
It's fine.
Right, as long as we're hanging. Yeah, as long as we're cool.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Just like I am friends with people who are ardent atheists, and they're good people, and they're my friends, and I don't push.
Yeah, I don't know if I know any ardent atheists.
Yeah, I know people that are just atheists. I mean, they're just
that's cool. It's not that I wouldn't hang out with them.
But my point is that there are people though that one way or the other, right? The atheist would never have anything to do with a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist or whatever, and vice versa, where it's kind of like reverting back to this immaturity, childhood kind of crap where it's like getting cliquey, and it's really weird because so what if we disagree? It's actually okay. It's actually okay to disagree because...
Well, I think it's... but I could be completely wrong. I think it's more respectful to disagree with someone. It shows that you respect them enough that you hold them in high enough regard to give them an opposing point of view.
Well, and
because you could just pander to them.
You could
and be like, oh no, yeah,
but that's dishonest.
Right.
That would be being dishonest, but you could still be friends with people.
But I think that's popular. I think a lot of people enjoy that. I think a lot of people enjoy pandering.
Well, of course. People make careers out of this. That's how they succeed, by pandering. They don't mean any of it. They're not genuine at all. But, I guess the way we get past it is pretty simple. We talk about it a lot here, is you love your neighbor like you love yourself. It doesn't say as long as you agree on politics, as long as you're the same race, as long as you're the same sexual orientation, as long as you're the same gender, as long as, all these labels. It's all inclusive. I mean, so you respect that person as a fellow human being, whether you agree or not.
And am I showing disrespect by wanting to engage them in a conversation they don't want to have?
Well, I mean, if they don't want to have the conversation, eventually they'll be like, look, I don't want to talk about that, right? But for you asking them what they think, I believe that's not disrespectful. I think to be disrespectful is to be like, well, I don't give a crap what you think. I'm right, you're wrong. That's it.
Yeah, and when it's the exact opposite.
And if you're inquiring what they, because I do that a lot with and I've done it right here where I've thought I had a position on something or an opinion, and ended up flopping the other way completely because I just needed to learn a little bit more.
Yeah,
and
it's happened to me dozens of times.
But here's where humility plays part. You gotta slide pride out of the way, because that's really what this is all about. If you are so prideful that you can't possibly think that for a second you might be wrong or you might have more to learn, that's where you get this hard-headed idea. I may actually learn something from somebody I disagree with.
That's where I learned the most.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
The idea that we can't be in the same room with people or the same state with people, you know what I mean? The same, land mass with people that we disagree with is immature and really kind of, I just don't think it's very, very productive. I mean, we're not going to get anywhere. It's fine if you disagree on things. We may, I may never, ever, ever agree with certain people on politics. I may never agree with certain people on religion. I mean, there are, Muslim folks that I have known for years that, I love these people, man, and we don't have the same views,
right,
but they're still human beings.
Yeah.
And they treat me the same way. That's really all you can ask. But this, they're the very people that preach tolerance are usually the most intolerant.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm seeing. And anymore, shame on me. And this is, unfortunately, this is an emotion. It's not, but it's like, shame on me for ever even opening my mouth ever, because I'm a white male.
Yeah.
And I'm straight. I mean, I don't have, you know what I'm saying?
You don't have a voice to speak with. You have
so
no
I should,
voice, dude.
It's like, shame on me shame on everyone else for even, shame on everybody, by the way, who uses race for anything as an identification, other than like, say, looking for a suspect at the moment to get a description of somebody. For me, race should never come up. It doesn't apply to anything ever, because it's all a bunch of lies that have been used. Irrelevant. Well, but you see it's working. Yeah. Because anymore,
it's been working for 2,000 years.
Well, it's in this country, in this day and age, right now, and the culprit here is social media. It doesn't matter what it is anymore. That's racist. Oh, so racist. Oh, this is racist. Oh, look at this guy, so racist. I mean, it's really, really
racist, and across it. Like I said, it's we've touched on this before, and you just said it. It's those who are the first to cry intolerance are usually the least tolerant. I was once having a discussion with, this is literally one of the nicest people you could ever meet. If you don't talk politics with this guy, you would absolutely love him, okay? And I just made a comment that I didn't think it was appropriate for the government to have to pay for a sexual reassignment surgery for a dude who was locked away for a military crime, because he's basically trying to use gender dysphoria as insanity defense to get out of jail and have his thing overturned. And so he's dressing like a woman. He's a woman now, and the whole 9 yards. And I just said, I just don't think the government should foot the bill for that. And I literally got accused of hate speech.
Well, here's the deal. At this point,
and I was like belittled. Well, I know you. You're a better person than that. And I think if you really sat down and thought about this, you would be ashamed of what you just said.
No, actually, I support your position 100%, and here's why. It has nothing to do with the fact that the guy thinks he's a woman, or that he wants gender reassignment surgery, or wears a dress. That has nothing to do with it. The fact of the matter is you have government stealing money to use for something that's frivolous. So again, government should pay for that. Well, government doesn't have their own money.
But I mean, if the
he's asking you to pay for it,
right? If the trend continues the way that government, and I'm not just talking about the last 8 years. I'm talking about the last 50 years. Okay, so don't get your Democrat pants on.
100 years.
Don't get
for
your
that matter.
liberal pants on. But if the government continues along the path it's been for the last several decades, the way healthcare is going, they are going to cover gender reassignment surgery, but they are not going to give a hip replacement to an elderly person who otherwise is leading a productive life because they're over a certain age.
Yeah, and that's the harm. And
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, again, when you have quote unquote government healthcare, right? This all sounds great and it looks good on paper, but who makes the decisions?
The government.
Yeah, but okay, so at any given time, see, we have this, in this country, we have this seamless way of replacing government every 4 years, which is ingenious, by the way, if you really study it. But every 4 years,
they found a way around that.
Well, kind of, but it's backfiring. But, so given that, I mean, okay, there's always going to be someone, because, see, government wields power, right? So you will yield to what the government says at the threat of imprisonment or at the end of a gun. This is a fact. That's why there are things that government should do and we need government to do, but when they cross the line, people tend to yield to government because they wield force.
Right.
So if you're going to say that, and this is the mechanical failure of this whole socialist-style mindset, that if you're going to pay for this guy's gender reassignment surgery, which doesn't have nothing to do with his health, his well-being, but it's because he's in prison that we're paying for it. What about me? You see how this starts?
I understand.
So what about me? What I want to get,
and that is the problem.
I want fake boobs,
right?
But I got to pay if it's elective for me, so I got to fork up $6,000 for.
That is the problem that is created when morality is not absolute.
Well, and it's just at this point it's economics. It's just math. It's so simple. It's
but
you can't.
It all stems back to what I need, what I want, what I feel.
Yeah. But mechanically this fails because in order for them to provide him with anything. Now, again, someone would say, well, you just want all this, you can't cut off medicine from that would be inhumane. And that's not what I'm saying. But for the government to provide inmates with health care, with food, water, and essentially shelter, they're not freezing, they got heat, right? This all costs money. They have to steal it first and then use the stolen money to give it to Joe Blow for XYZ. Now, if it's for antibiotics because he's got pneumonia or if it's because, whatever, right?
Yeah,
of course, that obviously. But he wants to get a sex change operation.
Right.
You expect taxpayers to pay for this.
Well, I mean, we should be ashamed of ourselves that we're not willing to.
Well, hold on. Not only do they expect you to pay for it, but they will force you to pay for it at the end of a gun at the threat of imprisonment if you don't pay your taxes because you don't agree with what they do with it.
Right, but you'll go on the walk of shame all the way to the end of the gun, all the way down the line to the gun. You're going through the walk of shame, man.
Well, it's all an emotional argument for this kind of stuff. It's always emotion. It's always emotional. It's never logical. It's never factual. The math doesn't add up.
This was around the time that our friend was having the issue with his colostomy, where they were saying that it wasn't a life-altering event, and they were considering making this absolutely healthy dude in his 30s live with a colostomy bag because they didn't want to pay to fix his bowels.
Yeah, they actually considered reconnecting his colon so he could poop like a normal person, they classify that as elective surgery because he could live.
Yeah, yeah.
But we're going to sit here.
That's elective surgery, but
Right.
we are committing hate crimes by not giving Bradley whatever the heck his name is gender reassignment.
Yeah, that's
surgery.
discrimination.
That's discrimination.
Yeah, it's discriminatory.
Yeah.
It's nonsense. This is nonsense. The idea that we can go ahead and support cause A because it's emotional, but yet not support cause B when it's clearly necessary.
Yeah.
The idea that is logical is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So here, like you said, luckily, thank God, the guy ended up getting his surgery he needed, and he can be a normal guy.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason why he shouldn't do that. Because honestly, that's a lot cheaper than going through the sex change operation, dude. This is very expensive.
And on top of it, if they wouldn't have given him the operation, the dude would not have been able to continue making a living in the fashion he was making a living. Therefore, he would have probably ended up on government disability.
Oh, but see,
and in the long run, how much more is that going to cost than just giving the damn surgery, man?
Right. Now, and that's the problem I have with this nonsense and that they would even take that seriously. That anyone would even take that seriously. It'd be like, as soon as he came to the table and said, I need a sex change operation, and because I'm an inmate in whatever XYZ penal system, government should flip the bill.
You said penal.
I did. He should be laughed at and sent on his way.
I hear you. But instead, we are shamed.
Whatever. I am not ashamed of that. I'm sorry.
Well, you know what I'm ashamed of? I'm ashamed we haven't gone to break yet.
Oh, it's already time for
Kenny
break.
is going to hit me in the head with one of these sweet new mic stands. So we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Down the Rabbit Hole. We are discussing government in many different ways.
About to get me all worked up.
Oh, I didn't mean to.
That's okay. I like it. I need it. Helps me. It's therapy.
Yeah, so I mean, all I'm really trying to get at is, and I've mentioned this many times, and I don't know if those whose views oppose mine are as interested as I am. I just want to know how we heal. How do we get back? I mean, I know how we got here. It was slow. It took decades, but I mean, how do we turn so that we're coming back together? Because I mean, this election has been unbelievable, like no other election in my lifetime, and I've seen plenty of elections.
I think.
I mean, this election is ripping families apart.
You know, the answer to me is very simple, but this is easier said than done for most. But even if you dive off the high board into the deep end and go, straight Bible, dude. A lot of people can't. It takes time. But if you just were to pay attention, and this is the point I try to make, just pay attention to what it was that Jesus was trying to teach us. Just pay attention to the philosophy behind it. Then if you realize that if we just continue to mistreat each other and just this hate grows, in the end, who loses?
We do.
Guess what? All of us do.
Yeah.
That's right. And if you have children, if you're planning on having children, you'd better wake up and pay attention to what's going on. Because when you're dead and gone, or old and, changing diapers, you're not going to care if you're lucky to live that long. Essentially it's unless, of course, the end comes sooner than that, then whatever. We don't have to worry about it. But we're going to go with the assumption that there's a future and no one's going to lob a nuclear football tomorrow, which actually might happen. I hope not, but it might. That these kids, what are they inheriting? I mean,
yeah, that I realized as I was talking with my wife about this, because I'm lucky I can have intelligent conversations about this kind of stuff with my wife, and we agree on most things. But I mean, I guess that's why our marriage is pretty solid.
Well, apparently disagreeing with you is not fruitful at all. So,
I mean, I would tend to think so, but there are plenty of people out there that would beg to differ. But that I realize that as I watch my child grow, and as I watch the miracle of a child growing up and seeing the world and learning about the world, I realize, A, that I have a ton of responsibility. And B, he gets stuck with whatever we leave. And it's our generation that's in control right now. It's our generation that's making this that's making it worse. We're not making it better.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the generation below us is a complete train wreck.
Oh my God.
So what I hope and what I think I'm seeing, I don't know, but maybe what I think I'm seeing is that this dynamic is shifting. So you may have a lost generation here on your hands that you're all going to have to deal with because they're going to be out in the workplace or, in the utopia, whatever the hell this ends up being. But the next generation, the young ones, like your son, like my kids, they may end up surpassing what they call and I hate labels, but the millennials. Because they're not part of that. They're after that.
Right.
Because they're young. And we're kind of this weird in-between.
Yeah, we're in between the baby
generation,
and
like whatever. Yeah. So, it's I think it's a definite possibility that if it's done correctly and the truth is exposed for what the truth is, and that is that it's the truth. Whether you like it or not, doesn't really matter. The truth is the truth. It's absolute. It's the truth. That there may be, a shot, but if it gets pushed so far, which it may already be, this may be our last chance to recover.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping we can, and I'm not saying that Trump is the answer. I'm just saying that I'm hoping that as a generation, we don't have much longer to right this ship. Otherwise, it's going to end up as off course as it's been, and then in the millennials.
Well, we've been rearranging the chairs on the deck for how long?
Well,
now?
that's all we're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if they can do that, then maybe they got a shot. But as we go down this never-ending black hole, a day will come when these kids are going to grow and have maybe their own families, and the reality will be striking. Is that when the bottom falls out and this collapses, which on this path it will, there's no question about this, it's not going to be their fault, right? I mean, they're going to be stuck with it.
Right.
I mean, really, our grandparents are the ones that started all this mess. They really did, by putting the chain of people in command that they did. Now, it's a great generation. Often referred to as the greatest generation.
Right.
But they have a hand in this. They're not getting off, in my book, scot-free on this one. It wasn't like they were just all awesome and then all of a sudden it went south. They put things in place that allowed certain other things to happen that got us to where we are now. So what I hope is that we start hearing from people who aren't zealots, who aren't just outright liars, who aren't these radical, community organizer types that lie about, things that are going on. And because, that hopefully we start hearing some more Reagan-like, and I use Reagan a lot because it's kind of fits into our life, our lifetime. And he was a great president and a great man. Not perfect, but a great man nonetheless. A lot of lessons can be learned by going back and listening to Reagan's speeches and the way he dealt with things and the way things actually went on when he was and what actually took place while he was president and how long it lasted after he was out of that office.
Reagan comes up a lot because he was the last great president that we've had.
It was arguably the only great president that is in modern history.
Right, in modern history, because I think a lot of Truman. I also think a lot of Kennedy.
Yeah, my grandpa saved Truman's life.
Really?
Yeah, he did. It's a true story. At the Blair House, Puerto Ricans tried to kill him.
Really?
That was not a racist statement, so if you think that's racist, I got nothing for you. Sorry. But yeah, Puerto Rican gang had it out for Truman, and they tried to assassinate him. He was at the Blair House. And the president's not at the Blair House. Usually it's the VP that hangs out there.
Right.
They were doing some renovations at the White House or something. And my grandfather was Secret Service and on presidential detail at the Blair House. And this Puerto Rican gang came and tried to kill the president. And he told this story to my father while he was in hospice, dying from Alzheimer's and cancer, I believe. As quite a young man. I don't even think he made it to 65. But anyway, it goes to show you how kind of ice cold, as loving of a man and family man as he was. When he told this story, you could the ice water was, you know what I'm saying? It's that hard Italian, So he's laying in the bed. He's kind of slowly losing his mind from Alzheimer's, and my dad was there, and he starts telling him the story about the Blair House and Truman and all this stuff that went on. And he says, tells him the story about how these guys stormed the Blair House and they came to assassinate the president. And my dad says, well, what did you guys do? And he goes, we killed him. Can you pass me that Jell-O over there? Well, my dad was thinking the guy's, Alzheimer's. The president's not at the Blair House. He looked it up, and come to find out, this actually happened. And it was my two Secret Service agents got killed during this exchange.
Wow.
And my grandfather was part of that.
What year? Do you know what year
I
it
don't
happened?
know what year, but it had to be as Truman. So it had to be in the 50s? Late 50s? Oh, I don't know.
Late 40s, early 50s, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
Eisenhower was.
And I think he also was Secret Service during Eisenhower also. But I just you brought up Truman, so I thought I'd throw that out there.
Well, I think Truman gets lost in the mix because of Roosevelt. And I think Truman got handed a bucket of snakes.
Yeah, Truman was president from 1944.
All right, yeah. Right after.
Okay.
Right amidst World War II's.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think Truman got handed a bucket of snakes. And, he had to make some tough decisions. And but I think in retrospect, the guy was very, very intelligent.
I mean, I think all these guys are intelligent.
Yeah.
Some of them are.
Yeah, I don't. Intelligence. I don't think intelligence
evil.
when G-Dub comes up and a few of the other ones, but I know that I'm wrong.
Well, he didn't come across as all that smart, but I think that was an act. I think he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, that might have been part of it.
Because the Bush family, come on,
because there's no doubt. I mean, Clinton was a Rhodes Scholar. There's no doubt that Obama is very intelligent.
Yeah, he is. And again, like I said, he's a smart guy. He's when he's on point, he's a good speaker.
He's actually a great speaker.
It's just his philosophy on a lot of things has no business in a republic. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And how many times do we have to see this to realize that you can't? You're not smarter than the ones that came before. It will fail for you just like it did for them. And what we don't want to see is that our children grow up to end up slaves.
Yeah.
We got rid of that garbage for a reason.
Yes.
And we also had it for a reason, not a good reason.
We inherited it.
That's what I'm saying. And it's nasty stuff. But this can. I mean, I would argue that in some way, shape, or form, slavery's become more sophisticated, and now we're all slaves. But
absolutely,
it's a little abstract. But I mean, it's almost we're tax slaves.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that you touch that isn't. They don't got their claws in. There's no such thing as a free market. Hasn't been for I don't know how long. I think we had a free market for like 5 minutes before they said, whoa, we got to get our claws into this action.
Yeah, how do we get some of that?
Well, and they did, and they got all of it.
Yeah.
And they want more. And they will never stop unless they're stopped. And you see the resistance that's coming now when this is tried to stop. When they come in and say, wait a minute, we're not doing this. It's just like your story with the guy with the sex change. It turns to an emotional argument.
Right.
Where, well, you just are mean and you're an elitist and na-na-na-na-na. And honestly, Most of the time I hear people talking about elitists are the elite. So figure that one out.
Yep.
So again, what we have to see, ask yourself the question, what are our children going to inherit? Are they going to inherit a debt that's going to crumble the nation and the currency? Are they going to inherit a wasteland caused by nuclear war? Are they going to inherit a world where, we just hate each other because of how we look, or the languages we speak, or because of our opinions? Or do we all have to have the exact same opinion, look exactly the same, have the same religious beliefs, or just ain't going to work? That to me is pretty shallow, and I think we should be able to get past that.
I would hope.
Well, because we did.
Yeah, we have.
I mean, we did on some level. This country's always had issues with this, but I think it was, there's concentrated examples of that. But as a whole, I think most of the time, and I argue this all the time, that most of the time people are just cool. You don't really got to worry about it.
I agree with you on that.
I mean, I don't go into a restaurant and go, oh man, dude from Pakistan owns this place. We can't eat here. Those words would never come out of my mouth because I don't give a damn where the guy's from.
Right.
Is the food good?
Right.
And is it reasonably priced? Because in the end, capitalism is boss.
Right.
So, not where the guy's from, or oh god, here we got our waitress is black. But there are people that are like this.
Well,
I will not deny this.
I do. Whenever we're going to a Middle Eastern restaurant, I do inquire whether it's Lebanese or not, because it seems that what I deem to be Middle Eastern food, the one that I like, the spices I like, it's Lebanese.
That's because you like Lebanese food.
I do.
It's not because they're Lebanese. You see my point?
Right. No, I don't even care if it's run by a Lebanese person.
Right. It has nothing exactly.
I just want to know that they're serving a Lebanese menu, because that is the that's the version of kafta I like. That's the version of fattoush I like.
Yeah, you like Lebanese food, which is one of its top 5 for me. Lebanese food. Love.
I used to think it was Greek. And
it's close,
because I didn't know any better, and I do love a lot of Greek food, but I'm just hooked on Lebanese food, man.
Yeah, no, Lebanese food is. I think I finally got my wife to like Middle Eastern food.
Oh yeah, girlie's totally into it.
Yeah. See, I knew it would happen because it's awesome. It's really, really good food.
In fact, Sheila's got some kafta for me. She called last time. Chris's mom was cooking up a batch of kafta, and she's like, "Does Howard want some kafta?"
Well, see,
girlie's like, you don't have to ask that question.
See, here's the real world example. Okay, now Sheila is Filipino,
right?
Chris is Lebanese, and they're your friends, and you're white.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to pay attention to the news and Facebook and Instagram and all this other crap that's out there, it's not possible for you guys to all be friends.
Technically, Chris is one of my closer friends.
You see what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
That's the nonsense of it. That's the nonsense of it, because it really doesn't. And until people can get, and really, we had a guy that walked the earth aside from Jesus himself who taught this lesson a long time ago. Now, I didn't agree with his politics. I thought he should have stayed out of politics for the most part. But Martin Luther King Jr., man, if we just pay attention to what the guy he was talking about.
Absolutely.
And I get disgusted when they invoke his name.
Yeah.
And I don't mean they referring to anyone that does this, all right? Not based on race, because, people will misinterpret what I just said.
Right.
And I've got to throw disclaimers everywhere now because, I don't want to get firebombed for saying the wrong thing. But just pay attention to what that guy was talking about.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
Very, very simple. This is so simple.
And does it bother you as much as it bothers me that other ministers that have very, very weak ties to Martin Luther King, who are popular in the present day, will continue to invoke their very weak ties to Martin Luther King's to legitimize their crap?
Oh, it turns my stomach. Yeah. Because, because
I think King would be speaking against several of them.
Probably most of them. Because if you, and I believe, I don't want to get this wrong, I'm pretty sure it's his niece. And she had the same answer that I come up with when they asked her, what do we do? she says, well, maybe it was his daughter? I'm so sorry. I should get this correct. But either way, the point is, she said this country has to pay attention to Jesus Christ and what he taught, and we have to just love each other. That's what we need to do. Now, how simple is that?
But it's so simple that people can't grasp it.
Well, what's the hard part is the turn the other cheek part. So you're going to run into, and there are areas that I would go maybe that I might, and I have never personally. One time, actually, I take that back. This happened to me. I made the newspaper actually for this because I got beat up in the street by like 8 dudes, Middle Eastern guys, and it's not because they were Middle Eastern as much as it was that I was a long-haired white dude. And I said, excuse me, in a Denny's when I was reading my bill, walking at the same time. They kind of bumped into the guy and said, excuse me. And they went nuts, followed me outside and, like, got me. And I tried to get to the car because I knew they were coming. And I was with the female. It's just me and her. Like, open the door, open the door, open the door. They're coming. And I jump in the back seat, and they caught the door before I got it shut. And they beat me pretty good. I got one of them with an ice scraper, but that ended up making the paper. No charges were filed. They never got called to testify against anybody. Nothing like they just let them go. It was no big deal, and I don't care. It's fine. I made it out, whatever. But it's so I'm sure there are going to be instances where I could go somewhere and get discriminated against because I'm white, even though. Right. The narrative is that that's not possible. I argue that it is possible. I really do sympathize with people that have to...
Isn't the argument that it's not possible racism in itself?
Well, no, that it's not possible that other people would be racist against me because I'm white.
Right, but I'm saying making that assertion, isn't that kind of discriminatory to begin with?
Well, all of it's racist. Yeah, of course it is. But... I sympathize, and there are going to be times when you're going to be in a situation where there's ignorant people, and they're going to do things like this and call people names and look down on them because of their race. You see it with these ridiculous neo-Nazi type crawling out from under rocks lately.
Really would go away.
Really,
oh my.
It's never going to take root. Just to set everyone at ease. And it may become it is expanded a lot, and there are a lot more of these hate groups than there were. I'm not denying reality, but
they're on both sides as well.
But it's never going to be the norm. I'm sorry, most people reject this. Right. I just believe this, and maybe I'm naive. I don't think so. But in the end, if you are faced with something like this, it sounds easier than it is, I'm sure. But until we can turn the other cheek, and maybe pray for that guy.
Yeah.
Then nothing will change. You're not going to change that person's heart yourself, right? So it has to be a different approach, and it has to be one that is not fueled by things that focus on race and gender and binary this and poly that and whatever. It's crap. We're all people. We're all the same, and you can easily prove this by the fact that, doesn't matter what race you are, you can all have kids.
Right.
Genetically speaking, we're not that different. That's really all the proof you need. But, if we can't straighten this mess out, and I think I hope anyway, that most Americans are so sick and tired of all this race crap flying around and all this nonsense. I think people are really sick of it.
I think a lot of people are sick of it, but again, I see it. It keeps coming up and up and
it's a good example, right? So we had this, of course, everyone knows about this story. The Facebook Live video with the 4 people that tortured that kid,
Yeah.
And the whole debate was over whether or not it would be charged as a hate crime. Now, this is disturbing. I don't support hate crime legislation anyway.
No.
For a simple reason that
crime is crime.
It doesn't. Well, how can you elevate the severity of one person's murder over the severity of another person's murder based on race? You see, Satan's behind this.
Right.
At the root of it. But that's the whole discussion. Is it so? As a result of that, all the talking, all the interviews I hear of all these prominent people and pastor this and senator that and whoever this, it's like making excuses for one side or the other, and when really what happened was a crime, and they should be prosecuted for it just like you would any other crime of that sort.
There should be special circumstances considering the guy was mentally disabled.
It was a crime against another human being.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter. It should be this. It's the same. I mean, how?
I guess you're right.
Why is a mentally handicapped person more important than Joe down the street, and vice versa for that matter? That
I guess you're right.
That fuels it, because if it's not just that some guy got murdered for no reason
on Facebook.
Well, I mean, they didn't kill that kid, right? But I mean, just as an example, like say, person, John Doe gets murdered. Does it really matter why, other than making a case to prosecute the killers? Does it change the fact that this guy was murdered? In other words, are you going to put a heavier penalty on somebody if they kill them racially motivated versus killing them just because he was there? The guy's still dead, and he's still murdered. Why wouldn't the punishment be just as severe? Why would you get...
Well, because everything's a negotiation.
Well, why would you get less punished if it wasn't, say, racially motivated? Does it make it more evil? I would argue that, no, it's just as evil as any, just as evil as any...
I can't disagree with you.
Any other crime. I mean, so anyway, but that... so I think they agreed to charge him with a hate crime, which, okay, they charge him with something at least, but... I've heard people literally, make excuses about, well, if you look at the context and you look at the, excuse me? That does not change what took place. Because one of them came from a divorced family or whatever the details of their lives are. This doesn't excuse anything. It doesn't
change anything. And the guy who got beat up, it was his fault, right?
It doesn't change anything. This is not how law enforcement operates on a day-to-day basis. You don't, if someone, someone stole my car. Did you get a good look at them? Yeah, well, give me a description, but leave out anything that has to do with race, gender, or age. Okay, it was a
person.
It was a human being stole my car.
Excellent, we'll get right on it.
You see what I'm saying? That's not the way this works. So why is it that they're also, you have to have this whole big background of family history and the guy went to an underfunded school and
his single mother,
single mother, and so all this. No, it's cut and dry, man. It is that simple. It's like no, that kind of nonsense has to stop, because it really just it legitimizes the discrimination itself. So if it's not just looked at like, hey, a crime was committed, this is what happened, here's the evidence. Murder is murder, rape is rape. You know what I'm saying? It should be severe anyway. One guy can't get out of prison in 5 years for murder when you got another guy up for life just because of the... first-degree murder is first-degree murder, right? But anyway, that's why I don't like the whole hate crime thing, because...
It's a symptom of a larger problem.
Well, it minimizes crimes that were committed against other people that didn't have anything to,
didn't have anything to do with race.
It's just crazy. So,
Yeah, that was some... I heard about that on the radio. I was like, are you kidding me?
Dude, totally disturbing, dude.
How stupid are those kids?
Well, this is
they're broadcasting it on Facebook. Are you insane?
It's...
let's completely remove the fact that they're premeditatedly beating up someone.
Oh, they're torturing them.
They torturing them.
Cut them. They burned them. It's really bad, right? But what was interesting about this, and this goes to show you the power of propaganda, is they were literally talking about Trump while they're doing this.
Oh, I know. Oh, yeah.
This is I can't even imagine where this even it's someone who even can use logic. How does this have anything to do with who just got elected president? And what is it solving? What are you doing?
Yeah.
What is it that you're doing? What are you trying to prove exactly? I mean, I don't know, but it sure seems like a lot of people out there are gunning for some kind of crazy race war. This is insane.
And
Totally
that's what I'm scared this is going to evolve into, and that's why I'm so concerned with trying to find a way to bring the two sides closer together, to find a way to heal the gap. Because I'm looking at it from, the experience of my life is that if you think things are getting bad, they're going to be way worse than you ever imagined. Okay? If you think policy isn't going to be good, it's going to be horrendous.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you think something's going to be good, then it just means it's only going to be bad. Just with I've watched, every time I've gotten a feeling about something, I've seen something going, I don't know about that. It usually turns out to be a freaking catastrophe. So this is the thing that's on my mind. It's just the way people are behaving in civil society. I mean, it's unbelievable to me.
Well,
and they don't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. But to them, it makes sense. And this is why
I don't even know that it makes sense to them, because there's been a couple of them that are willing to engage with me, and they still don't make sense. Their justifications don't make sense. And when you point it out, they just find a new point you made to focus on rather than answering the question or staying on the original topic.
I don't know. I tend to lean on the side of faith versus fear, because I think in general most people are, and I'll probably be the one that gets surprised at the fact that I was naive about this, but I don't think so. I don't know. I think the numbers are of people who are that radical, right, where that's their focus. They want this race war and kill all whites, kill all blacks, this kind of mentality, I think are the minority. The alt are a minority. I think most people don't want anything to do with that nonsense. Most people don't want anything to do with that. I agree with you, but I'm just saying
where we're at right now, we infect the next generation. Okay? So they end up farther along the path however we steer them. If we steer them towards good, they end up better than we were. I mean, this is what we've seen over time.
Right, yeah.
And if we don't steer them towards good, they end up worse. You look at these generations, and you look at the kids who were well raised and what they've accomplished, and then you look at the kids whose parents drank the Kool-Aid, and it was all about me, and then you got what we call the millennials.
Yeah.
and so, it's like if I see this happening, and I can see where it's going, and I feel absolutely helpless to do anything to positively affect it.
Well, that's where, at that point, you got to pray about it.
I'm praying like crazy.
And, have faith that, there's a reason for all this.
Well, I have faith I'm going to be okay. I'm concerned about part of our commission is to make sure as many people are as okay as we can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this new, you add being awake to the Great Commission, which I am now charged with. And that is where this feeling of helplessness comes from, because I'm determined to try and make a difference, yet am probably more powerless than I've ever been because of the way society has been hoodwinked.
Yeah, and that's a good word for it, because if you want to kind of make an observation, your son's older now than mine, but kindergarten, right? There's an example of every walk of life in this class, essentially.
Yeah, his too.
There's an Indian kid, there's a couple of black kids, there's white kids, David's half Asian, my son, and there's, these kids don't care.
Right.
Now they can speak English and talk because they're 5-6 years old. They're smart. They're what I call they're basically connected to the network now. I mean, they're creating memories. They'll remember this stuff now. They're not like 2.
Right.
But then you fast forward to kids that are of high school age, and everything is race, sexual orientation, et cetera, et cetera. Labels.
And why? Because they've been spoon-fed. Because their parents are obsessed with it.
Well, their parents and TV and the news and our politicians and social media, on and on and on. It's propaganda, and the machine won't stop until you pull the plug on it. So what has happened in between kindergarten, first, second, third grade, where these kids get to a point where they're just outright racist or outright anything?
They are absolutely patterning, because at that age, when that stuff is formed, they idolize their parents, one or the other. And they're getting it from their parents. And again, I realize this responsibility. I have black friends, and we have these discussions. And there was a lot of racism in the time I grew up. And I was, without meaning to, I was absolutely racist when I was younger, without meaning to. Not a hateful racist, but just, you think, well, there's a black dude, so he must be, so he's a black dude.
Right.
So he drives a Cadillac and drinks Magnum and
whatever. Yeah.
And I mean, this was I hate to classify it. I'm going to say it's innocent racism, but no racism is really innocent, meaning that, I mean, I don't hate the person because of it. It's a stereotype more than a racism. But, and it was because the people that were many people who were influential. Now, there were people that were influential in my life that showed absolutely no race bias whatsoever. Okay? But there were also influential people in my life who were absolutely racist.
Well, anyone who grew up, say, 60s, 70s, early 80s
can
relate to that.
And so I have felt in the last 25, 30 years, as I have gotten to become friends with people of other races, and one of my very, very best friends was black. And I started to feel guilty because I started to notice it's like my buddy Kevin's black, And I mean, I noticed this right away. He had dreadlocks, and but then I realized when I'm with Kevin, I would never ever entertain a racist thought, and if I entertained it, it's certainly an off-color joke wouldn't come out of my mouth. But then when I'm hanging out with my other buddies and Kevin wasn't around, we're making stereotype jokes and Sanford and Son jokes.
Well, see, that's where I just make jokes. I don't care. It's just joking.
Yeah, but I think
with good friends, we razz each other all the time.
I understand that, and we would razz Kevin too. You know, I've got a buddy Ken who's black that his answer to everything is, "Well, is it because I'm black?"
Right, and it's all good if it's just.
But what I'm saying is I realized some of the things I think were wrong, and it was Kevin made a big change in me because of it. Because I'm kind of like, damn, that isn't that really isn't cool,
Well, and you end up seeing the holes in it.
Absolutely,
you end up seeing all the holes.
Absolutely,
in this. And because I think people our age that grew up in like I said, like probably 70s, early 80s, childhood that time. Because it was pretty segregated, at least around here.
Yeah, it was.
There was areas that were. I mean, if we had a black kid in the school.
Oh, there was
a few Asian kids. It was pretty white, right?
There was one black girl in our high school.
Yeah, it's and that
2,000 in the senior class.
Right, and I think that leads to, it gives a little weight to what it is that the people that are in your life are saying, because you're not right. You don't have a chance.
Exactly. We don't have anything to compare it to, so it must be true. These are the people we look up to.
Like, oh, there goes the neighborhood. Everybody's heard this as a kid. Let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
But as you get older, at least for me, and I feel fortunate because of this, is I was the same way, dude, because I just wasn't around it. I wasn't around anybody when I was younger that was different. Not really. In school, kind of. But not like... When you get older, you enter the workforce, you maybe go to college, all of a sudden now you realize that, oh wow, like everybody's pretty cool. Now there's differences, whatever, but so what? It was my first real job when I started working for a chemical company. I met a bunch of guys that I could call right now and be like, hey, what's up, man? What's going on? These guys are my friends. And if it wasn't for that early, experience when I was like, say, 17, 18, 19, like that time frame, where I really started seeing all the holes in this nonsense. Now, these are good guys, man. These dudes are cool. Like, I would leave my kids with them and be like, dude, here, I would trust them to that level. I don't automatically think they're going to, like, steal from me and, like, rape my wife. And it's just, you see there's holes in this nonsense. Because there's evil across the board.
Absolutely.
But there's also good across the board.
There is.
So, again, how do we mend this?
Well, yeah, I mean, with our kids, all we can do is address it. I mean, I talk directly to my son about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously with your kids. That's your ministry, is your house, right?
Yeah.
That's your.
Yeah.
Where do you think all men created equal came from? That's because men were created. You see, they didn't. Monkeys didn't evolve into equality. Men were created equal.
Well, maybe we should update that into all monkeys evolved equally.
Evolution created, yeah. Well,
except for the ones that are still monkeys.
Yeah, which is odd. But, there's a reason behind that. And I think they're saying the same things then that we're trying to communicate now is that, if we don't reject this crap, everybody reject it outright. Just don't even entertain a conversation about it. It's just going to keep going, and they'll use it against us.
Yeah.
And then once they get everybody separated in their own little areas, they'll pounce on them all at the same time. That's the plan. That's the textbook plan.
Well, and that's the thing too, is because you'll be so you'll be so out of it that first they'll take out the white guys, and then the other groups will be like, oh well, it's only the white guys, so cool, we got them, and then they're going to take out the Hispanics, and then the other groups will be like, well,
yeah, before too long,
there's going to be nobody left to fight them.
Well, they'll get. It's exactly right. That's like
that's the master plan.
Of course. It's the same
Divide
thing with
and
these,
conquer.
These rich leftists that support all this, this eat the rich mentality, thinking they're in the cool club, when indeed the day will come. Well, they'll get around to those guys. They'll get around to them.
Yeah,
they'll get around, and it's no different than this. All this race baiting crap. These people out here, they're doing this for their own. They have no interest in killing this narrative because they're making a living off of it.
Yeah.
People are making their careers from hate. And then if it goes away and everyone's cool, these guys don't have a job anymore. What are you going to talk about if everyone gets along? I mean, I always bring up Miami Vice, man. We got to go back to that, dude. Crockett and Tubbs, baby.
That's right.
No one cared.
Nope.
Nobody cared. It was a cool show, and those guys were awesome.
No, they just
don't even claim you didn't watch it.
And they made a movie off of it, too.
And that movie is awesome, too.
Yeah, I watched it
I liked it
yesterday.
really
I did, too. It was on. I saw it, yeah.
I didn't do Miami Vice. I was in a metal band.
Dude, I wasn't in a band, but I like metal, but Miami Vice?
Dude, I played guitar 24 hours a day. Why would I want to watch Miami Vice?
Because it's an awesome show.
No.
You missed out on a huge part of culture, dude.
I was a big Hill Street Blues guy.
It's also a good show. Yeah, but Vice, the theme song, like if I could broadcast it, it's in my head right now. I know it.
Wasn't that also the time Don Johnson did his own album?
Oh
yeah.
God, I forgot about that.
Because on Grand Theft Auto 5, they sometimes played some Don Johnson on there.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, him and Bruce Willis.
Oh, Return of Bruno.
Oh, my God.
That was
But yeah,
a good
dude,
album.
that was cool. And we, and in TV and movies, like it was joked about, but I don't think anyone really meant it. Like I watched The Jeffersons, I watched Good Times.
Yeah.
It was like one of my favorite shows, man. Kid
That
Dino
was-
Mike,
yeah.
come on. I didn't care that they were black. I just didn't care.
Right.
Whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's just too simple. Or maybe it's too complicated. I just can't grasp it. I don't know. But me personally, I reject it outright, and I don't care. If I lose because of it, I think I'm on the right side of the fence. I really don't care where you were born or what color your skin is or any of that nonsense. If you're cool to me, I'll be cool to you. And that's the bottom line. But there are some people that just will not ever do that. They won't. They won't ever come around to doing that. They'll always hold this grudge, this whatever it is. You know, I mean, for me, I should hate all Middle Eastern people because 8 of them beat my ass in the street in the parking lot. I should really forever. But see, that's not. I don't. So maybe I'm the one that's getting it wrong. I don't know.
No, I think you're getting it right.
Yeah.
But then again, I could be wrong.
You could. Yeah.
And that's a scary thing.
Yeah. It got so bad there for a minute. I thought, because, I shaved my head, right? I thought for a minute I have to grow my hair out, dude. I'm like, am I going to have to grow my hair out? I don't want to be labeled some kind of skinhead and, get attacked. But I refuse. My hair's gray, so I'm shaving it. I look old when I grow it out. That's vain, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think you look any older, but you could always dye it.
Dude, come on. I will never do
that.
Oh,
come on, dude.
I am not dyeing my hair. Okay, so sorry.
You could dye one of them pastel colors.
Nothing against guys, the Just For Men guys. I get it. I'm not doing it.
Oh, no. I'm talking the one where you see the 40, 50-year-old chick with the neon blue hair. That's what I'm talking. I could see you with some neon blue hair.
Well, see, that's punk. I could do that.
Yeah.
I couldn't pull it off at work, though.
You don't think so?
No, but I'm not going Grecian formula, dude. No way. And that wasn't an anti-diversity statement. That's just the name of the hair color.
You totally hate Grecian formula.
I must hate Greek people, I guess.
It's hate speech.
God, you can't even talk anymore without...
No, you really can't.
Oh,
you really can't.
God.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think we're gonna wrap it up.
Are we done?
Yeah, thanks for listening. We will be back next week. Happy Hour's up next. To God be the glory. Great things he has done.
See ya.